Right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll start. Welcome to the second forum on motorways of the seas, and thank you all very much for coming to Brussels here today on this second forum. The concept of motorways of the seas is legally described in Article 21 of the 10T regulation, and in line with this regulation, the motorways of the seas should contribute towards achievement of a European maritime transport space without barriers. Various elements are included in this broad but succinct definition. Motorways of the Seas projects should support short sea routes, associated maritime infrastructure and equipment, introduce simplified administrative formalities, link ports with hinterland connections, and serve wider benefits that are not linked to specific ports but relate to services and actions that support the mobility of people and goods. And, importantly, we should comply with environmental legislation. The regulation envisages that in my capacity as coordinator for Motorways of the Seas, I shall present a draft implementation plan, and it should become the reference document for any future development and financing of projects related to Motorways of the Seas. The Motorways of the Seas concept is a horizontal dimension of the European Union transport network policy. Through financial support available thanks to CEF funds, the European Commission wants to concentrate flows of freight on viable, regular and reliable sea-based transport services. Services that are well integrated in the logistic chain and cover all types of maritime freight operations. All with the aim to 1, reduce land transport congestion, 2, increase the use of more sustainable modes of transport, 3, increase transport efficiency and effectiveness, and 4, improve accessibility to peripheral regions. The detailed implementation plan will be built within the 3 pillars for shipping and ports that I have already identified as my key priorities. Just to remind you, they are the environment, logistics integration and safety in the human element. A profound analysis and evaluation of shipping and ports data will also be performed, leading to the definition of Motorways of the Seas key performance indicators to link better the priorities within the Motorways of the Seas set of ports, of which there are around 400, and with each and every core network corridor. In my opinion, the detailed implementation plan will have to stress the cross-border dimension of Motorways of the Seas and focus on development priorities that will enable logic and commercially viable interconnection with other core network corridors, specifically looking at ports and their connections to the internet. The DIP, once approved by the European Parliament and Member States, will constitute a clear and precise guidance document for development and research priorities related to the maritime sector. I will present the draft document to the European Parliament's Transport Committee on the 15th of June 2016, thus initialing a period of consultations. That consultation will involve the European Parliament, the Member States and you, the stakeholders, leading eventually to an updated and final version foreseen for adoption 12 months later in June 2017. Today's meeting will deal with the second priority of the detailed implementation plan, namely logistics. I would like us to consider what priorities any future work programme should include so that the EU maritime industry is fully integrated in the global transport chain. The DIP for Motorways of the Sea should serve you, and therefore it should include issues that concern you, projects that are relevant for you, and we will listen to you attentively. At today's forum, we will hear testimonial from various industrial players. All discussions should be aimed at answering a pertinent question on how to maximise efficiency of operations both at the seaside and in ports, with the aim of to reduce transport costs and to contribute to an increasing and competitiveness of the EU traded goods and in general the EU industrial sector. We shall be focusing our discussion on the following issues: how and what Motorways of the Sea co-funded actions could contribute to better services of voyage management, flow management, port collaborative decision making, all with the aim of making shipping operations much more efficient. What investments are necessary on land side, what is necessary to increase terminal handling productivity, and innovation to reduce equipment consumption. How to better connect ports with hinterland. In other words, should Motorways of the Sea's efforts be better concentrated in fostering synchromodality, thus improving the last mile connections to ports, and more broadly connect better with the 10 P9 core networks. What solutions should be financed to expedite customs and other administrative procedures at ports? And last but not least, how to facilitate and increase EU trade with the outside world. Remembering maritime transport serves 40% of internal and 75% of external trade. In this context, we cannot forget the importance of Motorways of the Sea in linking peripheral and outermost regions. So, we look forward to hearing from various speakers today, and we'll now get started with it.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian. So you set the scene, and now we will start with our key stakeholders. So first one, foremost, Mrs. Brigitte Gispers. She is Director of Marine Affairs in the Netherlands, and she will deliver us a speech based on the report of the Dutch Presidency Conference organized by the Dutch Presidency on short sea shipping. So we get the prime of it.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Like our chairman already said, I would like to give you a report on the conference we organized on short sea shipping during our Dutch presidency. My name is Brigitte Gijsbers. I'm Director of Maritime Affairs and also responsible for logistics in the Netherlands. And my main tasks are to improve competitiveness and sustainability, including safety, security and speed for all waterborne transport modes, and also to promote logistic interoperabilities. And already Mr. Brian Simpson mentioned the logistic chain. It is very important that where there is the gap in this chain, or where the chain doesn't work well, that we improve all this. During the Dutch presidency, we have quite a lot of priorities in the field of transport, and not all related to maritime affairs, but innovation, digital market, and internal market is one of our priorities, like for rail, the fourth railway package, the open sky for aviation, interdependency between environment and transport. Also a topic we discussed during the informal transport and environmental ministers council in Amsterdam. ITS, including driverless automated cars, port regulation, focus on global maritime agenda and investment TEN-T. And related to the last two, the port regulation and the focus on global maritime agenda, we organized on the 15th of February in Amsterdam a high-level meeting on short sea shipping, where quite a lot of directors responsible for maritime affairs were attending. The main issues brought forward in the speeches and the panel discussions during this high-level meeting in Amsterdam were greening of transport, and with a focus on LNG and modernization of the fleet. We discussed logistics, port handling facilities, and the integration of surface transport with maritime policy development, including all operators. The completion of an internal market for maritime shipping was highly addressed, as was the administrative facilitation and creating of value added for the operators. Shipping allowed the same treatment as other transport modes. And of course, digitalization and more especially a harmonized implementation of regulation 2010-65 of the EU and the maritime single window between the EU member states, and development of an EU cargo manifesto as mentioned. And also the TEN-T policy objectives and financing, whereby also opportunities are available with the European Investment Bank. During the day we had some different working parties, and during the day we came to the following recommendations. The first one is that short sea shipping is a sustainable transport mode, and we should actively promote short sea shipping as a sustainable modality in the supply chain, and acknowledge the supreme energy efficiency of transporting large volumes of goods overseas. And if you look to this picture, you see that the EU, the economy of Europe is based on its ports. And you see that lots of activities, logistic activities take place in these ports. And ports are also, if you remember the map with the TEN-T corridors, you know that ports are always the starting point or the end point of the corridors. They are a gateway for interconnectivity. And if you look at the logistic hotspots in Europe, you see that you could easily you see here on this slide that you easily could connect the main logistics areas and the ports by short sea shipping. Sorry, the little problem with the technique. But could also be in our presentation, I don't know. And if you look at short sea shipping, it is a sustainable transport mode, but you see quite a difference between road transport and short sea shipping. And in one of the workshops, the supermarket Lidl showed their business case and showed their way of working. And you see that although the road has advantages, short sea shipping is a stable and sustainable and reliable alternative. And the advantages of the road are easy market access and easy implementation, less strikes, shorter transit times, decreasing costs. And on the other hand, you see some advantages of the short sea shipping, stable transport and transport prices, CO2 reduction, no lack of drivers for long distances, loading security, better planning loading and unloading times, and higher weights. And therefore, supermarket Lidl in this whole logistic chain, they choose to make use of short sea shipping. The second recommendation we came to was related to the outcome of the COP21 discussion, the Paris Sustainable Innovation Forum, and also shipping should become more green. Although it is already a sustainable mode of transport, it should become more green. And to stimulate the greening of the shipping, there should be EU co-financing and innovative financial instruments like the Green Shipping Financing Tool. And during one of the workshops we discussed this tool and the experiences we had until now. And you see that since the 1st of January 2015, the SECA, the Sulfur Emission Control Area, exists on the North Sea. And because of low oil prices at the moment, shipping companies can make use of low sulfur fuels, but this will change with the rising of the oil price again. And although maritime shipping is not mentioned in the COP21 recommendations and conclusions, the IMO will come with further measures. So green investments are necessary, like LNG, but because of the financial situation of the shipping industry, financial support is necessary. And for the green shipping financing tool, different investments qualify, like LNG equipment, energy efficiency, emission reducing, onshore power supply, ballast water treatment, NOx reduction, and also other techniques that could qualify should be assessed on a case-by-case basis. And during one of the workshops, we explained to the participants the financing, the green shipping financing tool, and there were the maritime directors made some remarks on it, and they stressed that it should have an equal opportunity to all member states. At the moment it started as a pilot, in certain member states, but it should be an there should be equal opportunities for all member states. And the European Commission should monitor the EU level playing field and should promote fair competition. Focus on transparency. It should be an open, clear and transparent system with opportunities for all member states. And it should be based on a stable, harmonized legal framework. Important to involve shippers, cargo owners on the demand side to use cleaner ships and establish the opportunity for charging costs using green vessels. In this way, shippers contribute to greening of the fleet and also provide clear incentives to stimulate greening, encourage seaports to come up with initiatives that capitalize on sailing with cleaner vessels, such as an environmental shipping index with discount on port fees for more sustainable vessels. Another incentive would be to promote standardized shoreside electricity by providing grants to ship owners and reducing port charges. The third recommendation, which we came to in this conference, was that short sea shipping and logistics should be together, the motorways of the sea. And at the moment, until now, motorways of the sea focused mainly on the infrastructure, but and it solved quite a lot of physical bottlenecks. And in future, a bigger focus should be on digitalization. Digital infrastructure is there necessary. and quite a lot of interest went out to the interconnection between the digital supply chain. This slide, this is quite difficult probably to read, but this afternoon more attention was paid to it. This slide shows that all digital transactions between businesses and governmental organizations should be linked together. And important is that these systems should communicate together. The whole chain, physical and documents digitalization, should be linked together. And therefore it is necessary that both on the national and EU level we should have first of all a clear picture what would be the systems in the future, but also to make sure that there is harmonization. And also on the maritime single window there was quite a lot of discussion, and we came forward with a fourth recommendation to reduce the administrative burden for the intra-EU trade and facilitate transport through electronic reporting efficiency for operators by implementing a harmonized European maritime single window, including customs, through cooperation between EU member states. Harmonized data and electronic cargo and ship manifest to multiple use by all logistic operators. And this could be done on the basis of the Rotterdam rules, so it is important that member states ratify this treaty, and on that basis the cargo, the ship manifest could be used during the whole logistic chain. And we came to this recommendation on the basis of the EXA report. And in this report, this shows that for road transport, only one document is necessary, and when forwarders choose short sea shipping, they need to have 12 different documents. So it is necessary, when we would like to make short sea shipping more popular, that at least we reduce the administrative burden. For good functioning of short sea shipping, less administrative burdens are necessary. Maritime single window should be a top priority. The maritime single window should have a common scope, should function as a machine-to-machine interface. It should build on trust. It should be based on an EU-wide harmonized data set and make use of the WCO, the World Customs Organization data model, so it could be easily linked to the systems of customs as well. It will improve communication between the EU member states, and to come to this, build on best practices and make use of a thorough analysis of feasibility of different alternatives. And how this maritime single window could be in future. The ANAP project, and this afternoon Michael Rents will explain more in detail the results of the ANAP project and what can be developed in future. And important is that the machine-to-machine interface is of great importance to work efficient in port. And it doesn't matter if we talk about big or small ports, but the efficiency in the port is of great importance to make sure that the logistics chain can move smoothly. And the future perspective should be a maritime single window, which would be not only linked the maritime part, but it should become a logistics single window. So instead of an MSW, an LSW, a logistics single window. And the last issue we discussed, and we came forward with the fifth recommendation, is related to blue growth and integrated maritime spatial planning. And it is of importance that also from the maritime sector we should take an active interest and an active involvement in the integrated maritime spatial planning and policies to make sure that also in future there will be enough space for good, safe and fast shipping lanes. And I come to my conclusions. It is now time for action, but it is complicated because there are lots of different movements. So you see all those errors, lots of paperwork. It is complicated because of all the activities that take place on the seas. And last but not least, it is complicated because short sea shipping is at the moment not the most favorite choice of shippers and logistic forwarders. But short sea shipping has to fit in the core network. It should be linked in the ports as an integral part of the logistic chain, and therefore the maritime directors in the high-level meeting on short sea shipping, and I am convinced that we can do it, that in the EU short sea shipping will take place and will bring the logistics chain forward. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Bridget. I never thought we'd see a picture of Jose in his bath. There you have it. The next speaker is João Carvalho from Portugal, regulating the transport corridor. João is the regulator, the Portuguese national regulator. So, João.
Thank you, Brian. First of all, to all our participants, and if you allow me, Brian, I want to congratulate Jose because he has the courage to bring a red tie.
I'm sporting, we lost.
Because he lost his football club just last Sunday, lost against Benfica, so Benfica is my club, and the color is red. So the color of Sporting is green. So he has the courage to say Benfica won the league with so thank you for this. I'd like to send this invitation to the Portuguese Authority for Mobility and Transport. Just a few words. This authority is a new authority on transport. This authority for mobility and transport, it's a new authority. We are still installing. We have a kind of, our job is more or less on the transport system, of course, like, for example, the central bank. So we are independent from the government. It's a public body anyway. We were nominated by the Portuguese Parliament. So our mandates are mandates of 6 years, and it's mandates that only the Parliament can do something with or against us. So our boss is the Portuguese Parliament as a first step, and we have all the modes of transport with the exception of air navigation. So it's another regulator for air navigation. So I will start my presentation highlighting the European Union policies for transport and competition that are of key reference marks for the action of an independent economic regulator with attributions in mobility and transport ecosystem. Just one more thing is that all our opinions or our reports are of binding nature. So whatever in this case concerning concessions, port concessions, or whatever concessions in the port sector, so are of binding nature. It means that the government must follow our public opinions. So going on, the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union, in particular the rules on competition stated between articles under 1 and under 9, that essentially forbidden the cartelization, forbidden the abuse of dominant position, and also forbidden the state aids, despite these state aids might be avoided in some specific situations. Particularly in what concerns to state aids, the European Commission has intensified this activity regarding the port sector and deemed a number of measures to be compatible with the internal market. As well, a proposal for revision of the European Union regulations, the proposal 651 from 2014 declares certain aid measures compatible with the internal market at the first public consultation and includes exemptions for investment aid to maritime and also to inland ports. Also, the white paper on transport of 2011, entitled Roadmap to a Single Transport Area, which aims a competitive and sustainable transport system, namely growing transport and supporting mobility while reaching the 60% emission reduction target, achieving an efficient core network and a global level playing field for long-distance multimodal transport. Also, the regulation 1315 of 2013 on European Union guidelines for the development of trans-European transport network aims the planning, development and operation of this European network in a resource-efficient way. The motorways of the sea and the European port sector are key elements for the achievement of European maritime transport space without barriers. And also the transport single market, they face presently a number of challenges that are capable of having an impact both on competitiveness and on its social dimension, which require not only close vigilance but a proactive action by regulatory and competition authorities. In our opinion, in our perspective, the main guidelines principle of action for a regulator is to overcome market failures without generating state failures, building a paradigm of a distorted competition, meaning without restrictions or distortions, protecting the public asset of efficient mobility, as well as promoting a dynamic and resilient balance between the following three rationalities: investors, users, professionals, citizens, consumers, and taxpayers. So our main job is to try to have an equilibrium between these three rationalities: investors, users, and the taxpayers. The action of the regulator shall aim the promotion of competitiveness of the whole value chain, taking into account the entire logistic corridors, where interlands need to be efficiently connected with the ports in order to compete, attract sustainable investment, generate jobs, and carry out positive economic benefits. Indeed, the economic regulation and supervision in the mobility and transport ecosystem should empower namely sustainable economic growth, competitiveness, social, economic and territorial cohesion, safety and security, modal integration, ITS, and quality. You can see on this slide, on this diagram, really the let's call mini cluster of the ecosystem for mobility and transport, where you can see in blue the three main roles that we have: the regulation, the competition and supervision of markets and cohesion policies. These all based in the citizen. So for us, it's very important the citizenship of people, to move or to transport